What's up, guys? Adam Francis, Raptors HQ here with Sasha again. Just talking about a little feature we're going to do, probably on a weekly basis, talking about the upcoming games. Schedule winding down. I think we're 45 games through the season now. So more just a look at the week ahead. Raps have 2 games, kind of a strange schedule. Into New York, back for Chicago, then New York here, and then Chicago on Saturday.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
On the face of it, this should be an 0-4 week.
Yeah.
But knowing the Raptors as they are and how they decide to beat teams like Memphis, but then lose to Charlotte the next night, I don't think 0-4 is that big of a certainty. I'm going to say 1-3 because I think we steal a game somewhere in there, or if Derrick Rose is injured, or the Knicks, you don't know what you're going to get right now from them. So I think we take one game from this stretch of 4. What about you?
Yeah, I would agree. I think they win these ones that you would say they shouldn't. They play close games. I was looking at some stats the other day, and they've played like 40% of their games have been decided by 7 points or less, which is a pretty crazy stat.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the record is in there, but basically they hang tough with teams they shouldn't. So I agree. I think they'll win one of those games, and who knows what happens when you play the Knicks. And like you said,
you never know what you're going to get, right?
You never know. And then what else? What other stories? I guess Jose's supposed to come back this week.
Yeah, he's slated to return. It'll be interesting to see how Bayless plays if Jose comes back. Are they going to introduce him slowly and have him come off the bench and keep riding Bayless because he's playing well lately?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or are they just going to plug him right back into the starting lineup, send a pissed off Bayless back to the bench, and then deal with that whole dynamic? Although with Barbosa's trade, that might open some playing time for Bayless at the 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe they move him around a bit. I think the one thing that's really interesting about the starting Bayless versus the bench one is his numbers as a starter are way better than as a bench player. So how does Dwayne Casey, make that work? Does he maybe play DeMar at the 3 a bit and try to start Jared at the 2? Who knows? The other thing, obviously, is they're still trying to work Andrea back in. He's been up and down. His first 2 games back, I think, were pretty good. I think his second one was really good, and then the last couple games not so good. I think he had 7 turnovers the last game.
Yeah, I mean, back to the Bayless thing. I just wanted to add, I'm a fan of Bayless at the 2. I think his role should be a combo guard off the bench. But I mean, Jose Calderon, Jared Bayless, DeMar DeRozan. If that's not the most defensively susceptible 3 people you could line out on the court at one time, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't mind, or you probably like Jared at the 1 defensively, but as a 2, he's undersized. It's a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
And you're right. Actually, talking about Bayless, what do you think? He's playing really well, as you mentioned. It's going to be interesting to see if he can continue that, and then what that means for the team going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Bayless, not necessarily as our point guard of the future per se, or as someone we can sort of give him the keys and say, drive. But I think he's a role in the team in the future. It just depends on what Brian Colangelo, Dwayne Casey, and the rest of the management thinks. My biggest fear, that is, if Jared Bayless plays well for the next, the final stretch, we're going to sign him to a 5-year deal, completely overpay him, give him a Marcus Banks type contract, and then we're stuck with Jared Bayless. But I like him on the team. Not necessarily as our starter.
Yeah, the money has to be right. I think actually somebody compared him, and I think it was one of the NBA writers, I don't remember who it was on Twitter, was basically saying that they, having watched Jared lately, is this going to be an Andre Blatche situation where he puts up these dynamite numbers on a bad team right before his contract's up, and then he gets signed, and you look at Andre Blatche right now, right? So you're stuck with him. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. Andrea, obviously, I'm curious to see too what happens with Forbes. He had a really good game last week. Wasn't as good against Charlotte, but can he, show that maybe he's going to be at least someone that's in that 10-player mix in the future?
Yeah, no, of course. A lot of things to look forward to this week. But we want to know what you guys think this upcoming schedule. I mean, we've got those 4 tough games. But what do you think our record's going to be this week? Comments in the box below. Like us, share us, tweet us, do all that fun stuff. And most importantly, subscribe.